Hi, my name is George Coles, and I am an avid retro video game collector.
Do a barrel roll!
I have decided to document my journeys as I grow my collection. Please join me as I share with you my finds. Welcome to Retro Game Treasure Hunting. Hi everybody, like the opener said, my name is George Coles, and this is an episode of Retro Game Treasure Hunting. Now, in my last episode, I hinted a bit at what we were going to do today. And if you got the hint was we're going to visit a different planet by way of a different country. And we're going to do this. It's going to be a little bit different video. My pickup was a Sega Saturn, the Japanese model of it. And as you can tell, it's a white Model 2. Beautiful, beautiful console. I love the design of it. I love the look. Everything feels nice and ergonomic. I like the color scheme. I just love this console. This is one of my the Sega Saturn itself was always one of my holy grail consoles. I didn't have one back when they came out, and by the time I saved enough money, I'd bought a PlayStation, which a lot of people did because they were a lot cheaper. But by the time I started saving enough to get a Sega Saturn, it was already evident that they were going to move on from it. My friend Jason had a Sega Saturn, and it was the way I played it. I played a lot of games through, and I always was envious of him, and it was always a system that I always said to myself, one day I'm going to own one. Well, that day is here, and I finally got it. It's the Japanese version, which, to me, there's not a real difference because you could get the action replay, and look it up if you, because I'm not a fully 100% on what it actually does, but there's an action replay cart which you put in this memory card. This is not a Genesis cart, which a lot of people think it was. You put the memory card in here, and it expands the memory for games, like the RAM, basically. Well, there's a thing called an action replay that basically unlocks the regions so you can play, if you have a Japanese console, you can play PAL or NTSC on it. If you have an American console, vice versa. So, to me, once you get to that point, it's a matter of what look do you want. And I love the look of the white console, the black console. They're all very nice, but this is unique to me. And I like the fact that it's a Japanese console because Japan is so steeped in video game culture that I really wanted to own some Japanese stuff, some Japanese flavor. Eventually, I want to pick up a Famicom. I'm not in any rush to get it, but if I see one at a deal, I do want to get one just to have it because of the gaming culture and what it means and what the country means. Now, this video is going to be a little different than most of mine. I'm not going to review anything. It's more going to be like more of a show-off video than a review video, just kind of showing you what I was able to pick up. And before I get to the couple games I got with this, I wanted to show this. This is a huge difference. This is the Japanese version of the Sega Saturn controller. Now, I wanted to highlight this for one specific reason. I remember when I played my friend Jason's, and I've always been kind of a bigger guy. When I played my friend Jason's, I didn't like the feel of the American Saturn controller. But as you can see here, this feels nice. The directional control feels like it moves properly. The bumpers are in a good place. It fits my hands well. My fingers rest, if in natural state, my fingers rest on the B button and the directional, and it's light. And there's good stuff, and everything's right there and responsive. I love this controller. I think I didn't even know that it was different, but it's instantly one of my favorite controllers of any system. And I like the feel. I was a big Genesis kid back in the day, so I like the feel of a Genesis controller. And this feels a lot like that, but better, but improved. And I do know that the American, there was a secondary controller in America that came out that was like this. But if you bought the initial system, it had a bigger, more clunky controller that just didn't feel as good. I just love the feel of that. Now from that, I'm going to talk about my pickups game-wise, and like I said, I'm not going to do my normal thing where I review and show some gameplay video. These are just going to be a quick run-through. The first three are for the Japanese version of the Saturn, and this is Sega Rally Championships 1995. I think, to me, this is one of the games that if you own a Saturn, American, Japanese, European, this is a game you must own. It's absolutely amazingly fun racing game that shows the parameters, shows what they can do with the Saturn, shows that there's really was no limitation. To me, the hardware on the Saturn is actually better than the PlayStation, and when they optimized it, you could see the difference, and this is one of the games that stand out. This is the Japanese version, like I said, so until I get my action replay, I wanted to pick up some of these games, and I'm going to pick up more Japanese games. There's a lot of Japanese-only titles that came out, but a lot of times they're cheaper, even. So it's one of those things where you pick up what's good and what's cheap. We also have Virtua Fighter 2. Again, another stalwart of the system. If you've seen this, and one of the reasons why the Sega Saturn kind of failed is Virtua Fighter 1, when it was ported from the arcade to the Saturn, did not look as good. It didn't look as great as it did in the arcade. And we knew there would be limitations, but there was a huge difference. Now, by the time they got to here, they had flushed out those issues. And we got a more true-to-arcade version of Virtua Fighter 2. And this game, it's not, graphic-wise, it's not 100% as good as it is in the arcade, but it's a little bit better. It's way better than Virtua Fighter 1, the original Virtua Fighter. It's still a really fun and interesting game to play. And again, it's another one, I think if you're going to buy a Sega Saturn, Virtua Fighter 2 is a game you want to get. Now, last but not least on my Japanese purchases, Blazing Tornado. This is a game in the Fire Pro Wrestling series. Now, if you know my channel and you've watched it, I also do wrestling videos where I review wrestling. I'm a huge professional wrestling fan. And Fire Pro Wrestling is probably one of the most highly regarded series there is, but between this and the THQ Aki engine, the two, how can I say, the best, most well-received versions. This one's an early one. It's got a little bit more of an arcade feel than what they normally do. Normally, they're very hyper-realistic, and you know that's very fun, and they're very true. They're a lot of the Fire Pro series, which is a mostly Japanese series. They're the extreme level of customization. There's all kinds of beautiful things. This is a great example. Being a wrestling fan, I always look for wrestling titles on the systems I have, and I like to have at least one, if not more. And some systems I have dozens of wrestling games, but to me, this is one of the real standouts. There's an All Japan game that also came out that I'm probably going to pick up as well, that actually has two people from Virtua Fighter. I think it's Wolf, and I forget who else. I think Kane, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but it has them. And last but not least, now this is the American version, which normally you would need the cartridge for, but for some reason it worked when I put it in. I actually just wanted to see what the error was and what it would do when I put an American game in a Japanese console. Nights into Dreams. This is the quintessential Dreamcast game. Or, I'm sorry, Sega Saturn game. I'm reading Dreams off the back. This game is amazing. This game is beautiful. This game is fun. It is interesting. It is different. It is everything you want from the Sega Saturn. And this game, I can't say enough of it. Everything about it. The colors are beautiful. The graphics are beautiful. The gameplay is amazing. The soundtrack is amazing. The fact that it actually plays on this without it being region locked, and I checked some other games that I borrowed from my friend John, who runs the local game store. I checked to see if anything else, maybe for some reason this was an unregion locked Saturn, but other games didn't. I got lucky this one did. The reason I got it is because I am going to get the action replay so I can go back and forth between the American and Japanese versions and maybe some PAL exclusives if I need to. But to me, this was there and I had to get it. You can't, when you see this game and you have a Saturn, you cannot pass it up. It is that good of a game. It is absolutely, if you buy a Sega Saturn and you only buy one game, this is the game to have. This is the game that the system's for. It's why it is so disappointing that the Sega Saturn kind of failed in America. It's a much more successful system in Japan, which was another reason why I wanted to get the Japanese version. It's a lot cheaper because they made more, but just an amazing, amazing little piece of history. My own personal, I would say, kind of a holy grail. It's a system I've wanted for 2 decades plus now, and now I finally own one. So, my excitement over this is palpable, and I really enjoyed this, and I was happy. My local game store, Flash Comics, Games, and Collectibles, they got it in. I sat on it for a week, actually. I seen it there, and it was in a display case. And I thought to myself, do I want this? Do I want this? And after a week of me going back and forth, I said, yeah, I want to finally pull the trigger and get it. And a lot of the selling point was that they had nights, was that he had some Japanese games to go along with it. So I had stuff to play when I purchased the system. Because a lot of times you'll see just the system in some retro stores because the games are hard to come by. And it's a very expensive system to collect for. Now, there are some mods that allow you to play burn games. I really don't want to go that route. I really want to keep it to where I have the actual inventory. So, Saturn pickups on this channel may be far and few between because of the pricing on them. You can get really expensive really quick. But with that being said, I mean, these were all reasonable. These were all, I forget exactly how much they were because I bought everything at once. But these were all in the $10 to $20 range, these three. And this one, I believe I paid $50 for it, which is right about where the market value is on it. But it's definitely 100% worth it. It is worth $50. It's worth more than that. But, you know, to me, again, kind of a holy grail system, kind of one that I've always wanted, so I had to pull the trigger. With all that being said, this has been my newest episode of Retro Gaming Treasure Hunter. Blah, I can't say it. Retro Game Treasure Hunting. Thank you. My name is George Coles. I appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit like and share. Post it down here in the comments some games you think maybe I should pick up for the Saturn that I may not know of. I have a list already of ones that I want. I want to get Alien Trilogy. I'd like to get D for the Saturn. I'd like to get it for either Saturn or PlayStation, but I kind of want to build my Saturn library. Contra Legacy of War I want to pick up. Astal I want to pick up. And a few others that aren't coming to mind right away. But let me know if you have some other hidden gems that I might need to know about. But all that being said, thank you again for watching the video. This has been another episode of Retro Game Treasure Hunting. I said it right that time.